Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dining for Women's Google Hangout for this month. As most of you know, we record a Google Hangout a few weeks before the featured month of a project. So this is March 20th today, and we are recording a Google Hangout for African Women Rising. Since it is March, I would like to use this opportunity to remind all of you that Dining for Women's Knowledge is Power conference is coming up May 4th and 5th, 2018 in Washington, D.C. at the U.S. Institute of Peace. We have a few spots remaining for those of you who need to register for the conference, and we look forward to seeing all of you there. On another note, I have just returned from New York, where I participated in the Commission on the Status of Women. Dining for Women co-hosted a panel with UNICEF, and it was on gender-based violence. We had our grantee Women's Justice Initiative also participate, and a lawyer from Women's Justice Initiative came to us all the way from Guatemala. So we are very proud that the event was a magnificent success. So here goes. Let me introduce all the people here in the Hangout. We have Amy here, who is our technical guru, who is going to manage the technical side. And then we have Thomas Cole from African Women Rising. Hi, Thomas.
Hi, how are you? Thank you.
So Thomas is joining us from Santa Barbara in California. His wife, Linda Cole, is the executive director of this organization. She is traveling in Uganda right now. Thomas is on the board of directors. And Thomas, why don't you share your presentation with us?
Great, thank you very much. I am one of the co-founders, together with my wife, Linda, and I'm actually a co-developer of the permagarden methodology. So I'll be going into that as well. So the mission statement for African Women Rising is that we empower women after war by providing self-sustaining solutions that give hope and change lives. African Women Rising was founded in 2006 in the Acholi region of northern Uganda in response to the brutal war led by Joseph Kony and the Lord's Resistance Army. AWR works with pre-existing women's groups around community-defined solutions, and at present we work with more than 5,000 women and men each year, together with their families. The core areas that African Women Rising work in are adult literacy, girls' education, microfinance, and sustainable agriculture. And we're going to be talking specifically about the permagarden program today because that's what we're being supported nicely by Dining with Women. So what are permagardens? And it's an approach to maximize crop production in small spaces around the home. It enables people to use local resources and knowledge, local knowledge, to work on water conservation and long-term soil fertility practices to grow more food. It's a mixture of permaculture and the productive elements of bio-intensive agriculture. So why do we do permagardens? It enables people to have a year-round food production focused on a variety of nutritious and accessible foods. It's designed to empower people with knowledge needed to increase household food production, as well as to improve household nutrition. And what are the advantages? It's built on sound agroecological principles and techniques. It's premised on local knowledge and culture, and it values local understanding and local learning. It's based on locally available resources, which means it doesn't need external inputs to maintain the gardens or to build the gardens. And it helps turn challenges into opportunities. So there's a series of training modules that we train these women, 3-day trainings 3 times during the year. So as these photos will show, it gives you some of the context and where the learning takes place. This is a one of our classrooms, in someone's compound. We're using local resources to build tools that allow us to do the work. We do community resource walks to look at all the plants and materials that people have growing around the land to be able to know how to use them more productively. We use these tools to be able to manage the water that falls during rainfall and to know how to capture it, manage it, and bank it in the soil. So these are just some pictures of some of the perma gardens being built. We fence it because oftentimes there's chickens or goats running around. And here we are using local materials such as manure, wood ash, charcoal dust to be able to feed the soil and feed the microbes in the soil. We use different plant materials for pest problems, disease problems. And here we are, some of the finished perma gardens. Quite productive in the rainy season as well as in the dry season. So this methodology has been used successfully in other refugee settings. Here we are in eastern Chad. We have this refugee crisis in northern Uganda where over 1 million refugees have come in from South Sudan fleeing war and famine. There's very few resources that these families get, and the natural resources around them are quickly degrading. The purpose of this grant is to help women in northern Uganda, both the host community Ugandans as well as the South Sudanese refugees, to be able to grow more food for nutrition and income. So here's just a few photos to show the context of life for the refugees. Not an easy existence. And here we are, some photos of the perma gardens in the camp. So thank you very much. I'm going to have you go, I'm going to hand this back to Vinu. Yes?
Okay. Yes. So Thomas, it is our honor to be partnering with you and all the work that you're doing with refugees in this area. We understand that you're also working with host communities that live in this area. So could you give us some kind of a background of who these refugees are and how long has Uganda been accepting all of them?
Yes. Well, Uganda is one of the most accepting countries in the world for refugees. They've been refugees from DR Congo, from Rwanda, Burundi, Kenya, over the last number of decades have settled in Uganda because of their really liberal and open policies. In northern Uganda, where you have these communities recovering from this devastating war, that is where all of these new refugee settlements are being developed and built. And so communities now are finding themselves surrounded by these refugee settlements. So it's extremely important in whatever work that gets done to be able to work with the host community as well as the refugees.
Mm-hmm. So you showed us several photographs of the perma gardens, and clearly that is allowing these populations to have good, nutritious food in their diet. Can you address the larger part of their diet and probably even their geography? Like, do they have protein in their diets?
Sure.
Do they have livestock? Who are these people? Are they farmers?
Well, in northern Uganda, the majority of the population are farmers, so they derive both income and food from the land, and they're reliant on rainfall to be able to grow that food. It's the same for many of the South Sudanese who are coming into Uganda. They both keep animals, they keep cattle, they keep goats, chickens. It provides milk, it provides some of the protein, it provides eggs. But what we're seeing in northern Uganda in these refugee settlements, people are fleeing with none of those animals. So in the refugee camps, they're really, their diet has been constricted to what they're getting from the World Food Program, which is generally some pulses, like legumes or beans, and some grains. and cooking oil. So the permagardens are really about helping to bring some sort of micronutrients and nutrients back into their diet, leafy greens, fruits, things like that.
Mhm. Some of the photographs you showed us indicated a geography that seems very lush, but I believe the refugees must be running away from famine and drought to a certain extent. So your permagarden knowledge is actually maximizing what the geography of that land can give.
Exactly. So in these areas of the world, there's two distinct rainy seasons. And when it's not raining, it's extremely dry. And it could be dry for 4 or 5 months. And so what we're trying to do is work with people on learning the techniques of when rainfall comes down, we're able to store it in the soil. And so we're planting different types of crops and trees that are able to access, even into the dry season, the roots of those plants. So those plants keep producing leaves or fruit throughout the
Mhm.
year.
So, in a sense, you are increasing the food security, the water security, and the long term nutrition of these communities.
That's the idea. So it's not just about handing out food and food rations, but it's really helping to design the entire space that these refugees have or the host community have to really sort of mitigate or lessen some of the problems of what we might call climate change, what we see, happening on the ground.
Mhm. So, how much of effort does African Women Rising have to put in to kind of do a follow up? Are all the perma gardens thriving once you have come in and help set them up?
Yeah, I wish they all thrived all the time, but as we know in life, that's probably not the case all the time. But African Women Rising, what's quite unique about our program is our staff, they're our community extension workers, are members of those very communities where we're working. So they are living there 12 months of the year. And so both our program is designed to be able to follow up and to give support. But at the same time, our staff are members of the community, their relatives, of those very people. So they're there all the time.
Mhm. So as we come to a close of this Google Hangout, there are 2 points I want to make. And one is a question to you, Thomas. But before that, I just wanted to remind all the Dining for Women members that Dining for Women is in a partnership with UNICEF and that we are making 2 grants for 2 refugee projects. We have already paid out $100,000 for the Syrian refugee project in Jordan, which is an economic empowerment program. Our money was seed money, and because they have our money right now, the project can take off. These details are on our partnership page on the Dining for Women website. Presently, Dining for Women is fundraising for a gender based violence project based in South Sudan, and we have just been talking about South Sudanese refugees. Before we wrap up, Thomas, this question is personal. Your family has been dealing with a lot in Santa Barbara. You've had a fire in the hills of Santa Barbara.
Ah,
You've had mandatory evacuations, and you are actually getting ready to evacuate because of some rain that's headed in that direction in the next 20 minutes, I think, 15 minutes. Dining for Women members want to thank you for what you are doing in spite of all the personal issues that you are facing. Do you want to say something about it?
no, we just want to thank people for their love and support for our community. Uh, in early January, we had devastating mudslides, killed several dozen people in our community, friends of ours. A lot of people lost their homes, and so it's going to be even longer road to recovery. And as I said, within 15 minutes, there's a mandatory evacuation from our home here. So we're gearing up for that. But thank you for your support. It's very much appreciated.
Absolutely. It is our honor to work with you and your organization. You have pioneered this whole permagarden work and you're working with refugees, such an important, vulnerable community. Thank you, Thomas, and the very best to African Women Rising.
Thank you very much.